By 2010, the arcade landscape had changed drastically, relying heavily on large, immersive cabinets to draw players in. Mechanix and Raw Thrills teamed up to unleash a new, cinematic on-rail shooter that revitalized the genre for a changing market. Its success was proof that arcade games still had some life left in a console-dominated world. What's up, everybody? I'm Steve, and this is Arcade Economy, the series where we take a look at arcade games to determine just how much they cost to beat at the time of their release. Last time on Arcade Economy, we cleaned up the streets of old Detroit in the 1988 run-and-gun RoboCop. Today, we're jumping to the future to take on Skynet in Terminator Salvation. Was the cost of saving humanity a fair fight, or did Skynet terminate your tokens? It's time to find out. Now, as of the release of this video, this game has been the most recent arcade game we've looked at by an entire decade. By the time that 2010 hit, arcades had mostly faded away, and the Xbox 360 had already been out for 5 years. So it's a miracle that this game has the recognition that it does, let alone any success. And just for a little bit more context in this era, let's go back a whole 9 years before this game's release to 2001. A small group of Midway Games employees left that sinking ship to make a new arcade game company after Midway decided to stop making arcade games and focus on consoles. They called this new company Raw Thrills, and one of their co-creators was industry veteran Eugene Jarvis. You may remember him from such games as Smash TV and Narc. Their first two releases came in 2004. Target Terror, in my opinion, very dated first-person shooter, played into the paranoia around the fallout from the September 11 attacks in the US. I mean, seriously, this game looks like Area 51, a decade after Area 51. Anyway, their second release found much more success, the Fast and the Furious arcade game. After this, Raw Thrills saw steady growth in the arcade industry at a time where people weren't really going to the arcades anymore. So Raw Thrills specifically targeted the booming family entertainment center market. By placing games in venues like Dave & Buster's, Chuck E. Cheese, and modern movie theaters, they were putting their machines directly in front of crowds who were already out of the house and looking for entertainment. But to actually catch someone's attention in that environment, the games had to stand out. Raw Thrills began designing huge, immersive cabinets featuring heavy-duty force feedback light guns. They used big Hollywood licenses to attract people with popular IPs, and partnered with Mechanix, the studio behind the Big Buck Hunter franchise, to collaborate and co-develop major titles.
And there's all three.
Terminator Salvation was a big hit for the company and exceeded earning expectations. Arcade rail shooters were back, baby! This kicked off a number of other titles in the genre produced by Raw Thrills, like Aliens Armageddon and Aliens Extermination, a new Jurassic Park arcade game, and even a Halo arcade game. Raw Thrills would lean into the nostalgia even more, bringing back old 80s classics to family entertainment centers with a new spin. As for Terminator games in general, Salvation did have a tie-in game that came to consoles in 2009, but was plagued with pretty bad reviews. Despite this, Terminator games continue to release today. Terminator Resistance, a first-person shooter set in the future war, released to mediocre reviews in 2019. Terminator Dark Fate Defiance is a real-time strategy that released in 2024. And Terminator 2D No Fate, a retro-inspired game based on the T2 movie, released in 2025. Side note, No Fate is a fantastic game, and if you are a fan of retro-inspired games and a sucker for gorgeous pixel art, then I highly recommend this game. It was one of my favorite games that I played in 2025. Since Terminator Salvation Arcade is a tie-in to the movie of the same name, the storyline loosely follows that of the movie. Set in the post-apocalyptic wasteland of 2018, the film takes place after Judgment Day, the events where the AI defense network Skynet became self-aware and launched a nuclear holocaust against humanity. John Connor is a high-ranking soldier in the human resistance, but he is not yet the leader that the prophecy dictates he will become. The resistance is scattered across the globe in small pockets, hiding from and fighting against the machines. While the game has a lot of similarities to the film, such as the many enemy types you will encounter, the plot itself doesn't seem to align with that of the movies. Since John Connor is taking orders in this game rather than giving them, I think it's safe to say that the game takes place just before the film's narrative. Although there are some plot points that contradict this, like freeing the captured humans in the first level, when, in the movie, these camps were a complete surprise to the Resistance. It could also just be a retelling of these events. Terminator Salvation is a 1 to 2 player on-rail shooter released in 3 different cabinet styles. A standard 32-inch version with mounted guns, a 42-inch model with free-moving assault rifles, and an upgraded Super Deluxe cabinet that features those same rifles, a giant 100-inch screen, and surround sound to completely immerse the players. If you played on a cabinet with free-moving recoiling rifles, then you got to experience a new clip-action reload sequence to add a depth of realism. No more shooting off screen to reload. Upon entering your coins, players take the role of John Connor and, someone else, I guess, if you're playing with 2 players. You start the game by selecting one of 2 missions, each with 4 pretty extensive chapters. The goal of Mission 1 is to seek and destroy an underground Skynet experimentation lab. The goal of Mission 2 is to escort refugees and destroy Skynet. Again, loosely following the storyline from the movie. This is the largest clip size I've seen in a game thus far, giving you a whopping 60 rounds before you need to reload. Weapon pickups are outlined in green and include grenades, a shotgun, and a minigun. Grenade pickups will give you 3 grenades, and you can use them by pressing a side button on the gun. I recommend saving your grenades for when you become overrun by enemies. They also work really well against smaller enemies and hydrobots. The shotgun will give you 25 rounds and fire a blasting projectile that works best for smaller enemies or enemies that get too close. And then there's the minigun that gives you rapid fire with 196 rounds, easily my favorite gun in the game. There are also a few sections where you will equip the mounted gun with unlimited ammo that also gives you an on-screen reticle. These sections really do make you feel overpowered and are, in my opinion, the highlight of this game. You'll mostly take on T-600s, but there is a ton of enemy variety throughout the game to keep things fresh, and all of them are pretty tanky. Sure, they do take multiple shots to take down, but it also gives you more of a feel like you're going up against an actual Terminator. Enemies glow red to let the player know that they are taking aim at them, so these are the ones that you should prioritize taking out first. Outside of T-600s, you'll come face to face with aerostats, hydrobots, a variety of hunter killers, moto terminators, spider mines, machine turrets, T-600 infiltrators, T-1s, and T-7Ts. Yes, I do love the first 2 Terminator movies, but I had to look up the names of all of those because I am not an expert at these things. There are 2 boss battles at the end of each mission, and really the final chapter of each acts as a long, epic boss fight. During each of these fights, you'll be prompted to shoot at certain areas quickly in order to prevent taking damage. At the end of the first mission, you'll come face to face with an HK tank. There's not really much strategy here, just shoot the prompts. I did find that saving grenades for when the HK missiles were close was an easy way to destroy them. The second mission boss is a harvester, and the final sequence for this one is actually timed. At the end of this boss fight, you'll place an explosive charge on the harvester, and you'll have only 4 seconds to shoot 5 targets. If you don't do this within the time frame, you won't lose a continue, but you will have to restart from the beginning of the boss fight. It's a tight window, and it took me 3 tries to finally get the timing down. Now, real quick, before I get to the cost, I just want to say that the presentation in this game is incredible. It's really easy to pick up, And the visuals are some of the best that I've seen in an arcade thus far, and I mean rightfully so. This came out in 2010. This is a great immersive experience, especially if you can find a Super Deluxe cabinet. I highly recommend you give this a go if you ever see it in the wild. And now it's time to find out just how much I spent to beat Terminator Salvation. Now for these games, I play them on their default settings, and I set up a timer to increase every time I start or continue. Now, Terminator Salvation came out in 2010, and it was considered a premium game, which means you have to pay a premium price to play it. So, it was $1 in most places. When it was all said and done, I spent a total of $15 or 15 credits to beat Terminator Salvation. Spending $15 in 2010 would feel like spending $23.20 today. It took me 50 minutes to beat Terminator Salvation, which is a pretty good sweet spot. I feel like most arcade games that I've played in this series are right around 35 to 40 minutes to beat. This brought my cost per minute to 30 cents. For the bosses, I only spent $1 on the HK tank and $1 on the harvester. Like I said, even though it took me 3 tries, you don't have to enter more credits every time that you fail, bringing my boss total to just $2. And now it's time to bust out the predatory game scale to determine just how predatory Terminator Salvation was in stealing your money. So $23.20 was the inflationary amount to beat this game, and when I played the 1991 T2 arcade game, I ended at $23.50 in 1991 money, which just gives a little bit of context at how far we've come since then. But that aside, the cost is still a little high for Terminator Salvation. Cost per minute at 30 cents is higher than most games that we've played in this series. But before we start talking about cost, I want to give some of my thoughts on the game itself. I think Terminator Salvation is a great on-rail shooter arcade game. It's a ton of fun. It's got gorgeous graphics and awesome action set pieces. The enemies can be a little tanky, but I do feel like it gives you more of that feeling like you're actually shooting a Terminator. The game is also really easy to pick up, and some of the weapons and the mounted weapons that you get just give you the feeling or the illusion of being overpowered. I didn't like that there's no way to regain health in the game, at least not that I encountered. And while I did enjoy the final challenge to beat the final boss with the countdown, I do think it is a little tricky to get the timing down. So really the main thing pumping this up the predatory scale is the premium cost of $1, but you also get a premium experience. I think playing a super deluxe version of this game probably gives you the most bang for your buck. It's almost like playing a ride rather than it is actually playing an arcade game. And as we talk about inflationary prices, yes, obviously game prices are going to go up over time. But if we look at a game that cost 25 cents in, let's just say 1987, because that was a great year for games, when we look at the inflationary calculator that I use for these videos, 25 cents in 1987 would feel like 49 cents in 2010 money. So was this cabinet overpriced? I guess you could make the argument for that, but also I think you'd have to make the argument for games priced 50 cents in the 90s. All this inflationary math can get really confusing and make your head spin. So taking this into consideration, the high cost of entry, but the premium experience, I'm going to give Terminator Salvation a 5 out of 10 on the predatory game scale, and I think that is more than fair for this game. Do you agree or disagree with my rating? Please sound off in the comments below, and I will do my best to reply. Next time on Arcade Economy, we're going to stick with the on-rail shooter just a little bit longer as we take on Time Crisis. So be sure to check back for that video. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. This was a great video to explore. I always figured I would get to this game, but not sure when. I know it is more of a modern arcade game when compared to the other games we've been playing. And last time I also mentioned that when I do these games that are based off of movies, I do watch the movie also. So I went back and watched Terminator Salvation, and I remember liking it when it came out. Obviously, it doesn't hold a candle to the first 2 movies, but I do remember watching this movie and saying, oh, that was pretty good. Watching it now, I still don't think it's terrible. 6 Terminator movies in, and this is really the only one that only focuses on the future war. I think that the story has potential, but I do think the script was really bad. Some of the decisions the characters made are really dumb, and the movie just really contradicts itself a lot. It's an okay movie, I guess. I'd probably give it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. Anyway, a huge shout out to our Patreon producers and YouTube members. Jake Weed, Tanner Trezza, Pezmage, John Forhan, Smash Jackson, Gregory Hines, and the Badger Knight. You guys are the best. I appreciate your support so much. And if you would like to support the channel, you can become a YouTube member or a patron on Patreon. VIP viewer level and above will get all of my videos early and ad-free, plus a director's cut of Arcade Economy with more footage around the game's history. And you'll also get an extra video every month. Just last week, I released a video about cyberpunk video games that made the biggest impact in the industry. So members and patrons at the VIP viewer level or higher, please check that one out. That'll do it for me. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and hopefully you'll see me on my next video. Thank you guys for watching.